Hey, buddy. How are you doing? Oh, no need to be on edge. I'm a friend. Just here to help a fellow lost soul finding themselves in unknown land. I saw the entire thing. You suddenly appearing out of nowhere, a confused look on your face, before a mob of cloak-wearing cultists started running after you. Cultists you outran pretty quickly, by the way. Let me guess. You were wherever you were, doing your own thing, when you suddenly found yourself in front of a strange woman claiming to be a goddess. A goddess who called herself Ishtar, and did some impressive trick like ripping out your still beating heart, before placing your butt in that spot you appeared in. And she probably didn't explain much to you beyond that. Nowadays, she generally expects those she plucks from other worlds to learn on their own, which isn't easy. New people like yourself become victims of those who love to exploit your ignorance. But I am a much more noble soul. I only desire something from you that I think you can afford to give. Something small, but still precious. That, chocolate bar in your front pocket. It's been a while and, thanks. It's been like decades since I've had one of these. The price has been paid, and as promised, I'll tell you about the land you have been so unceremoniously dumped in. Oh, and don't worry about the cultists. They fell into a convenient pit trap. I even made sure to slit their throats. You can never be too careful. Long ago, in one world or another, might have even been yours for all we know, the old gods ruled. You know of them, at least from your mythology books. Zeus, Thor, a bunch of others from numerous other faiths. These old gods, despite the powers they had and the authority they wielded, were really more like, parasites. They fed on the belief and worship of mortals. It's what gave them power. But as inevitably happens, the world began to change. New faiths and the sciences slowly started taking people's attention, which of course started weakening the gods. The gods were untroubled by this fact mostly, because it's part of a cycle that has repeated for an eternity for all I know. The lack of faith and belief would force them to travel to an ethereal state or dimension, where they would slumber for who knows how long, until primitive mortals on another world need some gods to worship. But this time, there was one goddess who had no intention of being put back in the ethereal bottle. You see, Ishtar, the Sumerian goddess of lustful depravity and remorseless savagery, had a plan. With her remaining power, and perhaps a few bloody sacrifices from her followers, she crafted a realm in an isolated pocket dimension, free from the constraints of time and space. When this place, what we call the Brutal Realms, was done, she began taking folks from other worlds and dimensions. Every one she took, she would first have them appear before her, so that they could know who took them from their homes, and also display her godly power. No matter how much of an atheist you were before, having her rip you apart a few times puts the fear of a goddess in ya. Once done, she would then plop them down in the Brutal Realms, specifically Hag's End. It's called Hag's End because many people around here aren't really a fan of Ishtar, and Hag is honestly the nicest thing some people call her. As for the end part, well, I'll let you figure that one out. You never know when the goddess is listening. Now I bet you're wondering, why go through all these trouble to grab these folks? Well, there are two reasons. The first are the altars. All around the Brutal Realms, you will find altars that blink in and out of existence. Anyone who worships at these altars gives Ishtar power, and in return, she gives the worshippers little gifts, usually in the form of food, which is scarce in these realms. So scarce that whole wars have been started when a new altar appears, as people fight for the right to use it. Worshipping at the altar is not the only way to gain Ishtar's favor. Extreme acts of violence and lust also do the trick. Specifically though, violence. There are many around here who do as much slaughter as they can to gain her favor, and the rewards for such service is usually a cache of weapons, whispers that reveal an enemy's location, and other things the mortal might desire. But the ultimate prize that everyone hopes for is the ability to return home. Impress Ishtar enough, and she'll put you right back in your home dimension, in the same point in time and space you were taken. It would be like you never left. With such a prize, it's no wonder that even the most noble of souls might be tempted to listen to their baser instincts. Now you would think with all the slaughter and death that there would be a constant supply of new mortals coming to the brutal realms, but that's not quite the case. You see, no one truly experiences mortality in the brutal realms. If you die, you simply resurrect in the last place you slept, even still carrying the stuff you had with you when you were still breathing. Oh, and if you lose an arm or a leg at some point and survive, make sure to slit your own throat. If you sleep with a limb missing, it stays lost forever. Of course, all this constant death and resurrection comes at a price. The mortal mind isn't meant for such a thing. Most start to lose their memories of who they once were, and some others tend to go a bit mad. The truly insane become known as the lost, becoming the most dangerous and unpredictable people around. There is one small mercy though. There are no children here. I'm not sure of the biological reasons. I'm no doctor, but it's believed that since nothing grows old and dies here, there is no way to conceive children. Over time, as more and more people popped into the brutal realms, they began forming factions, groups of folks with similar ideals working together for mutual defense and the exploitation of others. There are a few minor ones worthy of a quick look, but there are big ones that, if you don't want to be killed over and over again, you might want to consider joining. The Ephron Consortium was said to be created by one of the first beings to arrive in the brutal realms. This man, or woman, or other, no one really knows for sure, soon used their charisma and craftiness to form one of the biggest crime syndicates in the realms. So big and influential is the syndicate that it's essentially a major backbone of the economy. I mean, is it a black market if everyone already knows about it? I tell you, the brutal realms is a place of madness. The members of the cult of the One Mother are worshippers of Ishtar, which, unsurprisingly, makes them the biggest religion in the brutal realms. Many people join it thinking it might be the easiest way to gain Ishtar's favor. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but the cultists certainly believe so, performing profane acts that twist most people's stomachs in honor of Ishtar. Also, just like the Ishtar-worshipping cults of Earth's past, the cult is mainly dominated by females. While many species have more or less genders than humans, the cult accepts anyone who has feminine qualities, at least by human standards. And with any religion, there is more than one way to worship. The way cultists worship in one part of the brutal realms may be entirely different than those in another. And as you can guess, the religious wars fought over such minor differences are truly a sight to behold. The Cogite Matrix is composed of sentient androids, robots, and cyborgs. They are generally a boring bunch, mainly because emotions are banned in their society. Any machines that have emotions are booted out, told they are too like the disgusting skins as they call us fleshy humanoids. They tend to be neutral in most matters, since they don't need food like the other residents of the brutal realms. But that doesn't mean they don't have to defend themselves like everyone else. They are machines after all, and there are many people who don't mind enslaving a machine to power a local town. Another problem for the Cogite Matrix is that they don't resurrect like us fleshy folks. Once a machine dies, they are just a pile of useless scrap, which is why the members of the Matrix are always on the lookout for new parts to repair themselves with, whether that comes from machines carried with new arrivals, disobedient members of the Cogite Matrix who didn't keep their emotions in check, or prizes from Ishtar for joining in the constant wars in the brutal realms. The oaths sworn are, as far as I'm aware, the only form of law enforcement in the brutal realms, composed of those folks who in their home dimensions were heroes, enforcers of the law, and so on. They refused to partake in the brutality of the realm, and tried to bring peace instead. Of course, enforcing that peace requires quite a bit of brutality to accomplish. So in the end, I think they're doing what Ishtar wants anyway. Many of them also have a strange belief that those who strike first are always in the wrong. It doesn't matter how deplorable your opponent was, or what they might have done to you. You decide to strike, you get punished. It's because of their noble stance and belief that their faction is always low in number, but don't think that makes them weak. Only the strongest people can hold such ideals in a brutal and amoral place like this. The Grand Order Zenith is a very strange faction. They accept only people that can fly, whether through technology, telepathy, magic, or whatever. If you're free from gravity's touch, you can join them. It is their belief that this one ability makes them superior to those below, and generally they don't ally with and stay out of the affairs of the disgusting non-flying people, preferring to live in their floating sky city Zenith and be all haughty. As superior as they feel though, they still need resources like everyone else, and when those get low, they deign to come to the surface and raid the camps of others. And when they do, they are merciless. Truthfully, they are some of the cruelest people around. Maybe it's a combination of their feelings of superiority and the madness of resurrection, but to them, we are just ants. Ants that can be crushed without a hint of guilt. The Brotherhood of Wayfinders is a secretive group that follows the teachings of a person named Crenel. Crenel was a powerful wizard, so powerful he actually challenged Ishtar. From what I understand, it was an intense battle, but sadly, Ishtar proved the victor, and at battle's end, Ishtar gave Crenel a permanent death. That should have been the end of it, but Crenel wasn't arrogant enough to believe that his victory was a sure thing, so he gathered all of his knowledge about Ishtar into a book, and split it into parts that he spread across the brutal realms. His followers now secretly search for its pages, looking to succeed where he failed. Of course, this makes them targets of the cults of the One Mother and anyone else who seeks Ishtar's favor. So they must keep themselves hidden, hoping for the day they can finally end Ishtar's reign. The Beast Kingdom is composed of animal humanoids from various worlds, who tend to live in the region known as the Twisted Woods. Cat people, fox people, deer people, etc., etc. Now, if you know anything about animals, you would know that those considered prey and those considered predator don't really get along, even if they're sentient. The predator's hunting and eating the prey, and the prey running away or defending itself to avoid being eaten by the predator. You know, the brutal beauty of nature. Those of the Beast Kingdoms have found methods to overcome their baser instincts. One of the ways they're able to do this is because those predators are able to eat blanks, the native animal life of the brutal realms, that breed like regular animals in our world. The killing still disturbs the sentient prey humanoids, but they accept it. Not only because it helps prevent them from being eaten, but predators and prey have to work together, because they are far outnumbered by the humans that live here. And that's a problem, because the lack of a consistent food supply means that many humans take it upon themselves to look for other sources of food, especially meat. It's sadly common for members of the Beast Kingdoms to be captured and fed upon. The Legos Broadwater is composed of all sentient underwater creatures in the brutal realms. Since they live exclusively in the oceans, they tend not to get into many conflicts with the other factions, the only exception being raids on the surface for metal armor and weapons, since it's pretty hard to be a blacksmith in the middle of the ocean. They also have a strange form of magic that turns their victims into what they call tide people, mindless servants that burst out of the water like a horde against their enemies. Not zombies, since necromancy on sentience is impossible because we can resurrect, but something else that is just as creepy. The Blood and Salt Trading Company are full of seafaring souls looking for adventure and opportunity. At least, that's what one of their members will tell you, if you ever ask them what their organization is all about. The truth, though, is that they're all just pirates, their ships traveling the coast raiding towns, docks, and so on. When not doing piratey things, they tend to dock their ships at a giant floating base called Ishtar's Bounty, trading tales, comparing booty, and singing in taverns. At least, that's what I assume they do. I've never been there, but I've seen a lot of pirate movies. The members of the Caelium Carnis are a creepy bunch. They are all the people that specialize in the manipulation of the dead, whether that be necromancers, mad scientists, or a combination of the two. Now I know what you're thinking. Didn't you just tell me that necromancy on people is impossible? It still is, but remember the blanks, the native life of the brutal realms, that breed like normal and don't resurrect. These wild animals make great test subjects, and you'll often find its members surrounded by a horde of undead animals, ready to attack anyone who threatens their master. Well, that's everything in a nutshell. There are other bits, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. You seem like a smart, human? Honestly, it's hard for me to know nowadays. I've been here so long that days and people just blend together. It's gotten to the point I forget what people look like whenever I blink. Hey, could you do me a favor and shoot me in the head with this gun? I think I need a bit of a reset. Hey, where do you think you're going? Oh, come on. After that info dump I gave you, the least you could do in return is kill a guy. People are so ungrateful. Oh well, guess I'll do it myself.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on the lore of the brutal world of Brutality. If you like it, and more interested in the game itself after watching the lore, there's a link down below to where you can purchase the PDF, and another link to Ash Barker's page at Gorilla Miniatures Games where you can see how the game is played. And if you're inclined, please like, subscribe, comment, press the little bell so that the YouTube algorithm knows that this YouTube channel exists, and videos like this can go out there so that other people can see information about indie war games they might have not have heard about before. And if you're really inclined, please send a little money my way through my Patreon or my Ko-fi account. Link below as well. The extra money gives me the time I need to work on these stories I love. Anyway, thanks for listening, watching, and see you next time.